The loud stage and the quiet paint stadium lights were blinding. Fans screamed, cameras flashed, and laughter echoed across the massive event hall. The internet had brought them all here. Influencers, gamers, streamers, actors. It was supposed to be a celebration. But for one person on that stage, it felt like a storm. Ishowspeed had just finished his energetic act. He had danced, shouted, done backflips, made jokes, all the things he thought his fans loved. But something felt different. Tonight, the cheers were mixed with chuckles, not the good kind. And as he walked off the stage, wiping sweat from his forehead, a group of voices rang out from the crowd. "Yo, Speed, calm down, man. You're not 12. Bro thinks he's funny. Do something real for once." He paused, smiled, waved, but inside, something cracked. He walked faster toward the side of the stage, pretending not to hear. His heart was pounding. His eyes began to sting. He'd worked hard for this moment, spent hours practicing, creating, learning how to be better. But now it felt like none of it mattered. All they saw was a joke. He sat down on the metal step behind the curtain, chest rising fast, hands shaking slightly. No one noticed. The noise continued on stage, louder than ever. The spotlight had moved on. He lowered his head, resting it on his knees, and let the mask fall. His breathing turned shaky. The noise outside grew distant. In this small moment of silence, he felt small, forgotten, mocked. Then, a shadow appeared beside him. It didn't speak. It didn't ask if he was okay. It just sat down quietly. Keanu Reeves. The man wore a plain black jacket and simple jeans. No bodyguards. No camera crew. Just calm eyes watching the stage, hands folded. In his lap, he didn't look at Speed right away. He didn't even say his name. For a long minute, neither of them spoke. And then Keanu said softly, "They laughed at me too." Didn't respond. He thought maybe he imagined it. Keanu turned, his head just a little. "Once early in my career, I forgot my lines. Froze on stage. They booed. One person even threw a paper cup. I went home and told myself I would never act again." Keanu paused. "But then I remembered why I started. Not for applause, not for perfection, but because it made me feel alive." Speed's eyes were still lowered, but his hands stopped shaking. Keanu continued, voice low but steady. "People forget you're human. They see the screen, not the heart. They forget you feel every laugh, every word." Speed looked up, barely. Keanu smiled gently. "And sometimes, the loudest support comes from the people who sit beside you in silence." Another long pause. But this one didn't feel empty. It felt full. Keanu didn't offer advice, didn't try to fix things. He just stayed, quietly, beside a young man who needed to know he wasn't alone. The sounds of the event faded into the background, and for the first time that night, Speed breathed deeply, slowly, like maybe he could face the crowd again. Not because they were kind, but because someone else had already walked through the fire and survived. The walk backstage, stage lights dimmed as another performer walked out, soaking in the applause. But behind the curtain, where no cameras were allowed, a quiet moment was unfolding, one that no fan would ever see. Keanu stood up slowly. Speed stayed sitting, still unsure what to say. His heart felt heavy but calmer now, like the storm had passed, but the sky was still gray. "Come," Keanu said gently. "Let's walk." Speed hesitated. The crowd still felt too big. The noise still felt too sharp, but something about Keanu's voice felt different, like a calm river after a flood. So Speed got up. They walked down the long corridor behind the stage, the kind of hallway most fans never imagined. Wires on the walls, water bottles stacked in corners, tired crew members rushing past. No glitter, no spotlights, just real life. As they walked, Keanu didn't say much, and neither did Speed. The silence between them was strange, but not uncomfortable. Finally, Speed asked, "Why did you sit with me?" Keanu glanced at him and replied, "Because someone once sat with me when I was broken, and it saved me." Speed looked down at his shoes. "But you're Keanu Reeves." Keanu chuckled softly. "In your Speed. People line up to see you. Millions watch you online. You light up a room, but that doesn't mean you don't get tired. They stopped near a small backstage lounge. Vending machine hummed in the corner. Speed leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Sometimes I wonder," Speed whispered. "What if they're right? What if I'm just noise?" Keanu walked over to the vending machine, pressed a button, and a bottle of water dropped. He handed it to Speed. "You know what I think?" Keanu said. "People love what they don't understand, and fear what shines too bright." Speed opened the bottle, not saying anything. "You're raw," Keanu continued. "You don't pretend. That scares people. It makes them uncomfortable, so they laugh. But inside, most of them wish they had even a piece of your fire." Speed looked at him. "You think so?" Keanu nodded. "I don't think I know." For the first time, Speed smiled. A real one. Not the kind he forced in front of crowds. Just then, a young technician walked by. He was maybe 19, holding a headset and a clipboard. He froze when he saw Keanu and Speed. Sorry," he stammered. "Didn't mean to interrupt." Keanu smiled. "You didn't." The boy looked at Speed nervously. "I just wanted to say, I watch your streams every night. My dad passed last year, and your chaos made me laugh when nothing else did." Speed blinked. He hadn't expected that. The boy nodded awkwardly and walked away quickly. Disappearing around the corner, Keanu looked at Speed. "You see?" he said softly. Speed stared at the floor, then back at the hallway where the boy had gone. His throat tightened. "I didn't know," Speed whispered. "We never do," Keanu said. "Until the quiet moments, the ones without the stage. The ones that matter." The two stood in silence again, but this time it felt warmer. Stronger. Speed felt a shift inside him. Small but real. Yet. Not healed, not yet, but not broken either. "Thank you," he said, his voice low. Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't thank me. Just keep showing up." The hallway light flickered slightly above them. The event roared on in the distance. But in this quiet space, something powerful had happened. Not a viral moment, not a trending clip, something real. When the cameras returned, due hours had passed. The crowd outside was louder than ever. Music blasted from speakers, celebrities took turns on stage, and fans waved signs with glowing letters. But backstage, Speed sat quietly on a bench near the exit door, away from the chaos. His phone buzzed again and again. He finally picked it up and glanced at the notifications, screenshots, clips, tweets, memes. The internet had caught what happened. Earlier, the shaky moment on stage, the expression on his face, the silence when he walked away. Some posts were cruel. Speed acting like the world ended because someone booed him. Bros finally realizing cringe isn't a talent. Felt his stomach twist. But then, messages started appearing, different ones. He looked hurt. Someone check on him. No one deserves to be laughed at like that. Psst, y'all are messed up. Where's Keanu? He disappeared after Speed left the stage, and then a photo, grainy, slightly out of focus. It showed Keanu Reeves sitting beside Speed in the shadows, one hand resting gently on Speed's shoulder. Both of them quiet. No smiles, no fake poses. Just a moment of human kindness captured by someone who wasn't even trying to go viral. It exploded online. Millions of people started sharing it. Real heroes don't speak. They sit beside you in silence. That was the caption someone had. Added. Speed stared at the image, tears pressing against the back of his eyes. Not because he was embarrassed, but because, for once, someone had seen him. Not the performer, not the meme, but the person. He didn't notice Keanu approaching until he sat down again, just like before. "You saw the photo?" Keanu asked quietly. Speed nodded. "Yeah. It's everywhere. And how does it make you feel?" Speed paused, scared, but also not alone. Keanu smiled gently. "Good." Where Speed turned to him, eyes serious now. "Why do you do this, man? I mean, you could have left. You could have smiled for the cameras and gone home. But you stayed. You sat with me. You came back." Keanu leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. "Because this world celebrates loud moments," he said slowly, "but it's the quiet ones that shape us. He looked into Speed's eyes. I've played heroes in movies. But the real heroes? They're the ones who show up when no one's filming. Speed swallowed hard. The words hit deep. Keanu stood up again. Come with me, he said. Where? We'll see. Reluctantly, Speed followed. They walked through a long corridor, up past makeup rooms and costume racks, down a quiet staircase, until they reached a small door labeled Volunteer Lounge. Inside were kids. 10, maybe 15 of them. Some in wheelchairs, some with hospital bands. Others just sitting with their parents, faces lit with excitement. They were part of a foundation, invited to meet their favorite celebrities. Keanu walked in slowly. Speed hesitated. But one girl pointed and shouted, "It's him! Speed!" The room lit up. Kids clapped. One little boy struggled to stand just to shake his hand. A mother whispered, "My son never smiled until he watched your video." Speed felt his knees weaken. "This is why you're here," Keanu whispered behind him. Speed bent down, smiling softly, and talked to every single child. He signed shirts. He posed for selfies. But this time, he wasn't performing. He was just there as himself. Raw, honest, kind. As they left the room, Keanu patted him on the back. He didn't need a microphone, just your heart. Speed smiled, tears in his eyes, and said something he hadn't said. In a long time, I feel like I matter. Keanu smiled. You always did? The moment the world listened the next morning, the internet wasn't talking about the after party, the performances, or the red carpet interviews. They were talking about the photo Keanu. Reeves sitting beside ishowspeed in silence. News outlets picked it up. A quiet act of kindness. Keanu comforts young star after public breakdown. Fans reposted the image with quotes like, "This is how we should treat each other." Even those who had once mocked Speed now stayed silent, unsure what to say. But Speed, he didn't hide. He posted a video. No flashy editing, no background music, just him sitting by a window, morning light touching his face. His voice was soft, slower than usual. "Double quotes, yo," he said. "I just want to talk for a second. No jokes, no shouting, just me." He paused. You could see him thinking, choosing every word. Carefully, yesterday was hard. It was real hard. And I almost believed the voices that told me I was just noise. I almost walked away from all of this. His eyes dropped. But then, someone sat beside me. He didn't say be strong or man up. He just sat. In that silence, it saved me. He took a deep breath. I know a lot of you are going through stuff, and maybe you feel like you're being laughed at too. But I promise you, there are people who see you, care. Even when the world doesn't clap, you matter. The video ended, and the internet exploded. Again, not with memes, but with gratitude. Thousands of comments poured in. I needed this today. I was about to give up, but this gave me strength. Thank you for being real, Speed. Yet another. Part of the world, Keanu watched the video alone in a small hotel room. He smiled, not because he was proud of himself, but because he knew Speed had just taken the first step toward something bigger than fame. Later that day, Speed got a call from an event organizer. "We'd love for you to return and speak. Not perform, just speak. Share your story." Speed hesitated. "What if I mess up again?" he asked. "Then you'll be human," the woman replied. Speed looked at himself in the mirror for a long time that night. No costume, no filter. It's just him, and slowly he nodded. Double quotes. "Okay," he whispered. When the day of the next event arrived, Speed stood backstage again. Same lights, same noise, same crowd. But this time, he didn't feel small. He walked onto the stage slowly. The room falling quiet, he stood still, microphone in hand. Then, with a soft voice, he said, "Last time I stood here, I thought the world hated me." He paused, but one man reminded me that silence can heal more than applause ever could. From the audience, Keanu Reeves sat quietly in the front row. No camera pointed at him, no spotlight. Just the same quiet presence. The crowd listened. Really listened. And in that moment, something powerful happened. People didn't cheer. They didn't shout. They simply stood, clapped, slow and steady. Not for the entertainer, but for the human. And Speed smiled. Not because they liked him again, but because he liked himself again. A quiet message in the rain that night after the event, the city felt different. The lights were still bright, the fans were still loud. But for Speed, everything moved slower now, softer. Like the world had taken a deep breath with him, he left. The venue quietly, no security, no cameras. Just a hoodie over his head and hands tucked in his pockets. A light drizzle had started, the kind that made people rush for shelter. But Speed didn't rush. He walked. His thoughts were heavy but calm. Not like before, not the panic or the noise. Just the weight of everything he'd felt, everything he'd learned. He passed by a small bus stop. Only one person was sitting there, Keanu, again, in the same black jacket. Sipping something warm from a paper cup, it's like he already knew Speed would pass by. Speed walked over and sat beside him. "You're everywhere I go now," Speed said with a smile. Keanu grinned. "Or maybe you're just seeing more now." They sat in silence for a few moments, listening to the soft patter of rain against the pavement. "I spoke," Speed said quietly. "Like you told me. You didn't speak," Keanu replied. "You connected, and that's stronger than any performance." Speed looked down at his shoes. "I thought I needed to be loud to matter. To be wild, unpredictable, crazy. But maybe I just needed to be honest." Keanu nodded slowly. There's strength in honesty. And sometimes, the quietest voices shake the deepest parts of people. A car drove past, spraying water as it passed. Neither of them flinched. "People are still posting about the video," Speed said. "Still sharing that photo of us."
What?
"Them," Keanu said calmly. "Not because of us, but because it reminds them of something they've forgotten." "What's that?" Speed asked Dot. Keanu looked up at the gray sky. "That kindness doesn't need a microphone." A moment passed, then Keanu reached into his coat pocket and handed Speed a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" Speed asked. "Something someone gave me when I was younger," Keanu replied. "I kept it. Thought maybe one day someone else would need it." Speed unfolded the note. It said, "You are not what they call you. You are what you carry when no one is looking." Speed held the note tightly. The rain picked up, turning into a steady rhythm. "You gonna keep saving people like this?" Speed asked with a smirk. Keanu chuckled. "Not saving, just reminding." Speed nodded. "Then let me remind someone too." The next day, Speed went live. No big announcement. No hype. Just a quiet stream. He titled it, "Just Talk to Me." Thousands joined, people from different countries, different struggles. Some typed long paragraphs. Some just posted a heart emoji. And Speed didn't shout. He listened. He read their messages out loud. One by one, shared his own feelings, laughed when it felt right, paused when it did, and when someone said, "I feel like giving up," he replied, "Sit beside me. We don't have to talk. Just be here. That's enough." For hours he sat. There it wasn't trending, it didn't go viral, but it changed lives after the stream. Keanu messaged him just one word, "Proud." And that was enough. The echo that never fades. A month passed. The world moved fast, as it always did. Trends came and went. New controversies filled the timelines. Headlines shifted. But something had changed, not in the world, but in the heart of a young man who once believed he had to shout to be heard. Ishowspeed didn't stop making content. He still laughed, still danced, still played his games. But now, in between the chaos, he left space for silence, for stillness. For truth, his streams weren't just noise anymore, they were conversations and people. Notice more messages came in. "Your words helped me sleep last night. You made me feel less alone. I didn't take the pills because you said, I matter." Each time he read one, Speed didn't respond with hype. He sat still for a moment, eyes lowered, heart full. He knew now, those were the real victories, not views, not sponsors, not fame, connection. One night, after a quiet stream, Speed got a call. The voice on the other end said, "We're holding a private tribute, something quiet, just a few of us. We'd like you to come, and we'd like you to speak. Speed hesitated.
Tribute for what?
For the people who didn't make it. Who gave up when the noise got too loud? The room went silent. Speed's throat tightened. Yeah, he whispered. I'll come. The event was small. It's just 30 people in a dimly lit room. No press, no stage. It's just chairs, candles, and... Story's Speed stood up when it was his turn. He held the microphone gently, like it was something fragile. I'm not here because I know the right words, he began. I'm here because someone once sat beside me when I had no words at all. He looked around the room. Every face was listening. Some of us carry storms inside, loud storms. And the world tells us to dance in the rain. But sometimes we don't want to dance. Sometimes we just want someone to sit beside us. Quietly, paused, tears building in his eyes. A man did that for me, and now, every day, I try to do it for others. Not perfectly, not loudly, but with heart. When he sat back down, no one clapped. They didn't need to, because every single person in that room felt something shift. After the tribute, Keanu was waiting outside. He didn't say much. He just opened his arms and Speed walked into the hug. Without hesitation, 2 men, 2 generations. 1 lesson. You don't need to speak to be heard weeks later. Speed returned to the original stadium, the place where he'd once broken down. This time there was no performance. Just a guest seat at an award show. But something happened. Midway through the show, the host paused. We have a special moment tonight, he said. An award not for popularity, not for numbers. Speed looked confused. Then, his name was called Ishowspeed, for reminding us that kindness, vulnerability, and silence can be more powerful than any spotlight. The crowd stood, not screaming, not cheering wildly, just rising. Together, in respect, Speed walked to the stage. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. This time, it was gratitude. He looked into the crowd and found one face, Keanu smiling, nodding. Eyes filled with quiet pride, Speed held the award close, leaned into the mic, and said just 5 words. Thank you for sitting with me. No speech, no noise, just that, because he finally understood some echoes never fade, especially the quiet ones.